Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Courtney Ryan. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive on a recent controversy that happened, and honestly a topic that I get questions from you guys about all the time. So when I heard about this, I knew that it was time to make a video. So this is the Trevor Bauer situation, which I'm sure you've heard about. I didn't want to rush a video out, but also I haven't really seen a lot of women making videos about this. I feel like most of the videos I've seen have been from men. And again, I get questions from you guys all the time that are related to the topic of false accusations, the double standards that men and women deal with in regards to the legal system and all of that jazz. So with that being said, I think this video gives us a perfect example of that, and I would like to share my opinion from a woman's perspective here. So something important to note before we start, in regards to the whole Trevor Bauer situation, I don't know what the other accusations have been. I don't know what he does in his free time. I don't know the guy, right? So again, just going off of what we're looking at here, I'm not going to pretend to know every detail about these people's lives because I don't. So we're just talking about what we're seeing here. And then we'll get into the bigger topic of what I think about this in general, other things that have happened, and all of that. So we're gonna watch it, I'm gonna stop it during it, we're gonna talk, and all that. So this is the video that Trevor Bauer posted on his YouTube channel.
Star pitcher for the Dodgers. A text Lindsey Hill sent to a friend before she ever even met me. What should I steal? She asked another, in reference to visiting my house for the first time. The answer? Take his money. So how might that work? I'm going to his house Wednesday, she said. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. Then, after the first time we met, net worth is 51 mil, she said. Bitch, you better secure the bag, was the response. But how is she going to do that? Need daddy to choke me out, she said. Ooh. Being an absolute whore to try to get in on his 51 million, read another text. Then, after the second time we met, former Padres pitcher Jacob Nix told her, you got to get this bag. I'll give you 50,000, Lindsey replied. Her AA sponsor asked her at one point, do you feel a tiny bit guilty? Not really, she replied. Since then, her legal team has approached me multiple times about coming to a financial settlement.
Before we keep going, I think we need to talk about that. Yikes! You text your friends your plans to scheme and get in on his 51 million by acting freaky? I would also like to say, shame on women and other people who encourage other women to lie and to be a scammer. That's disgusting too. And this is another reason why the company that you keep is so important. If one of my friends texted me their plan to scheme and to scam and to lie, I would shut that down. Because that's what a good friend does. And I wouldn't be friends with someone who was doing this kind of stuff. I think we can all agree that that was not a good look. Continuing.
But as I have done since day one, I refuse to pay her even a single cent. In August of 2021, Lindsey Hill's claims were heard in court. And during those legal proceedings, critical information was deliberately and unlawfully concealed from me and my legal team. Information like this video, which was taken by Lindsey Hill herself the morning after she claimed she was brutally attacked, emotionally traumatized, and desperate to get away from me. And now we have the metadata, so there can be no dispute. It was taken mere minutes before she left my house on the morning of May 16th, 2021, without my knowledge or consent, of course. In it, you can see her lying in bed next to me while I'm sleeping, smirking at the camera without a care in the world. Or,
I don't know about you, but I wouldn't be smirking in bed the morning after laying next to a man who just brutally attacked me. What a dummy move. Don't you love when people like this just tell on themselves? I'm going to talk about the whole believe all women thing later in the video, but this, my friends, right here is why we can't and why we shouldn't. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that someone would lie about something so serious and something that so many people do actually deal with and experience. It's disgusting.
Or any marks on her face. I think it paints a pretty clear picture of what actually happened the evening of May 15th and why the video was originally concealed from us. After hearing the evidence available to her, Judge Diana Gold-Saltman found that Lindsey Hill had misled the court. She found her claims to be materially misleading. She denied her request for a domestic violence restraining order, and she found that no sexual assault or non-consensual conduct took place. Now, some of you might not know about restraining order hearings. I know I didn't, but I've since learned that it's extremely rare for a request for a restraining order to be denied because the standard of proof that you need to obtain one is extremely low. So you can make of that what you will. The fact is, I was never arrested. I was never charged with a crime, and I won the only legal proceeding that took place without my side of the story even being heard. And most importantly, as I've said from day one, I never sexually assaulted Lindsay Hill, or anyone else for that matter. So I sued her, which prompted her to countersue me. Quite frankly, regardless of the outcome in court, I've paid significantly more in legal fees than Lindsay Hill could ever pay me in her entire life. And I knew that would be the case going in. But the lawsuit was never about the money for me. It was the only way for me to obtain critical information to clear my name. The discovery process in that lawsuit recently concluded, at which point Lindsay Hill's legal team again came to us with another proposal to resolve the case. This time, however, they weren't seeking any money from me. Having received much of the information that had been hidden from us, a small portion of which I've referenced here, I was willing to agree to the terms proposed. Both parties would drop their respective lawsuits, and neither of us would pay either side any money. I also retained my right to speak publicly about the case, something I have not been at liberty to do since June of 2021. So, as of today, both lawsuits have been settled. Now, over the last 2 years, I've been forced to defend my integrity and my reputation in a very public setting. But hopefully this is the last time I have to do so, as I'd prefer to just remain focused on doing my job, winning baseball games and entertaining fans around the world. So today, I'm happy to be moving on with my life.
Call it what you want, but that was classy. That was a classy video. The reality is that she could never possibly repay this man for the emotional or financial damage that she's caused, for the harm she caused to his image, his reputation, his career. There's no amount of money that could eradicate that, and I have a sneaking suspicion that even if there were, she wouldn't be able to pay it, considering it seems like that's what she was after from him from the start, and the reason why all of this took place to begin with. Luckily, Trevor here is a man who had the funds to defend himself, his image, his reputation, which as we know is incredibly expensive to do. Legal fees are not cheap. But imagine all of the people who don't have the money to do that. What are you supposed to do then? Imagine being falsely accused of something and not having the funds to defend your image, defend your reputation. I mean, I don't know how all of that works. I would have to look into it. You guys can let me know down below if you know. But my gosh, how depressing and just gut-wrenching that would be. You know, something that I find to be so devastating about this is the ability for this to completely water down or make us less likely then to believe situations where someone is actually a victim. This is a slap in the face to the men and women who are actually victims of abuse. And I think we can all agree that unfortunately there are monsters out there who commit horrific crimes, and it's disheartening to see those people get away with it. I think we can all agree with that. But meanwhile, innocent people are falsely accused and there are no consequences for it. That doesn't sit right with me, and in all honesty, I think people who are caught doing so should go to jail. Because what's stopping more women from doing this if there are no consequences for it? Again, this is my opinion from what I just watched, but it seems to me like she wanted money. Given the text messages and the screenshots, it's pretty obvious. Or at least that's what it seems like. And I mean, yeah, this made her look so bad. But think about the years that Trevor looked bad because he was being falsely accused. And because of this believe all women thing, people automatically believed Lindsay before anything was proven, just because she said so. And that just doesn't sit right with me. I can't imagine what that's like. And you know, I've reacted to videos of girls making videos in the gym of guys, you know, glancing their direction and they say that he's harassing her, and one on the sidewalk last week. I mean, it's happening all the time, and I didn't elaborate on this too much in that other video that I reacted to last week because I knew I was going to talk about it here today. And I don't want to take away from the fact that there are actual victims out there. There are monsters. There are people who are true victims of abuse. And I don't want to take away from that. But it's disgusting to me that people lie, and it makes us less likely to believe the people who are actually being truthful about it. Because situations like this water it down. So if you're a woman out there who's thinking about lying about this for money, for whatever you're in it for, think about the damage that you're causing to women who are actually victims. You know, if there are no consequences for false accusations, what's stopping people from lying about it? And I've heard a lot of people say things like, well, why would someone ever lie about that? Because a lot of them get away with it, a lot of them almost get away with it, or a lot of them get caught and then there are no consequences. If there are no consequences for false accusations, what's stopping other people from lying about it? People who have absolutely nothing to lose, but everything to gain. I think one of the most dangerous things in this world is someone who has absolutely nothing to lose. And in this case specifically, one person had everything to lose, and the other person had nothing to lose, but everything to gain. And I'll let you guess who's who. You know, it's just disgusting to me that someone can be caught lying and then nothing happens to them. Like, think about all the money that he lost from his career. Think of all the partnerships, the deals, the years where he couldn't play, and the money's only one little part of it. Your reputation, your likeness, your image. You can't put a price on that. And to have that tarnished or destroyed because someone decided to lie to get your money is just pathetic. And it's disgusting. And I think it's also important to note, and I feel the need to do so because I have such a big platform, is that abuse is disgusting. We can't ignore that either. That's obvious. And if you are an abuser, you deserve consequences and you deserve to go to jail. But I think it's also disgusting that people lie about being abused. And I think those people deserve consequences too and should go to jail. You know, and again, as I mentioned, she can't possibly repay him for all the damage that she caused. She doesn't have it. She wouldn't have gone after his money in the first place if she had it. She doesn't have it. And if you don't have it, if you can't pay the fine, then you should do the time. I just cannot wrap my head around the fact that they're lying and they're proven to be lying, and then there are no consequences for it. Of course, everyone's roasting her online, she's being put on blast, yada, yada, yada. But think about all the people who've gotten away with it on both sides of the equation. You know, I really do believe that people who are caught lying and are caught falsely accusing people should have consequences. Because again, as I mentioned, what's stopping someone else from lying? Nothing. You know, they have nothing to lose to start with. And even if they don't win the lawsuit, they still aren't really losing anything. They have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And it's disgusting. And I also wanted to share another video, which I'm glad that I waited to react to this, because now, Lindsay's doing interviews. And some of you sent me this one, and I could not believe. Okay, this is Sarah Gonzalez. She interviewed Lindsay. Should I interview Lindsay? Should I invite her on my channel? No, we're not giving people like her a platform. Anyway.
Joining me now to discuss that is Bauer's accuser herself, Lindsay Hill. Lindsay, I mentioned Bauer's video in which he provided some receipts that, I'm going to be honest with you, make you look like a clout chaser, or I know some people are calling you a cleat chaser because admittedly you were chasing after several high-profile, wealthy baseball players. Trevor says everything was completely consensual. He also released these...
Also, before we go on, I think this is not a lesson, but a warning sign to men everywhere to be very careful of the women that you let into your life. Because there are a lot of women out there who are clout chasers and cleat chasers and want to use you and want to falsely accuse you to get your money. It happens more than you would think. If I was a man, a high-profile man, an athlete, a celebrity, I would be giving no one access to me, because this is terrifying.
Text messages that
The title of the video is Taking Down a Me Too Fraud.
came out in court indicating that you had planned the whole thing out. So I want to read some of these texts from you to a friend between the two of you before you met Trevor, this one. Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. Okay. Victim is an interesting choice of words. I'm going to allow you a chance to explain yourself. But after you agreed to meet, you asked your friend what you should steal. Your friend answered his money. He says, another one from you to a friend, I'm going to his house Wednesday. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. With a screenshot in which you told him, tryouts don't scare me, Bauer. Pick a day and I am there. Here are some more after you and Trevor met up. Net worth is $51 million, to which your friend responds, bitch, you better secure that bag. Your text, need daddy to choke me out, being an absolute whore to try to get in on his $51 million. You say this wasn't a setup. How can you expect anyone to believe that?
That's a great question. I really appreciate you having me on to even have this conversation. Obviously, there's a lot going on around this, so I really appreciate people who are asking questions about it. The first thing I want to say is, I think that Trevor did this intentionally with the text messages and how he framed this video. There's several things in it that are not correct. And I just want to start out by saying, it's so valid for people to question those text messages. But the root of the problem here is that he is presenting this as one conversation, when in reality he had thousands of messages to choose from, took those, made it look sequential, which it was not. There is no combined.
Even if that is only one conversation and the texts are not sequential, you still look bad. You still look like a liar. You still look like a cloud chaser. I don't care if those messages were sent days apart. They can stand alone and still not look good. Continuing.
Screenshot of those things going on one after the other. And as I said last night as well, there's no text message that ever exists. Otherwise he would have, put it out there, combining, anything about a setup through rough sex, finances all in one. Those were handpicked, and they were from multiple different conversations all before we met up.
You're saying that it's misleading because you're admitting that you did talk about rough sex and wanting rough sex. You did talk about him needing to choke you out. You did talk about stealing his money, but it's misleading because he put them together in the same video as if you had said it in the same conversation, when in fact it was separate conversations, correct? That's why it's misleading?
Correct. And as well as not showing, the messages that occurred after, where it discusses it strictly in the term of, being a baseball wife or something like that.
Or something like that. Okay. I'm just curious if you know, the statistical likelihood of you texting your friend premeditated texts.
You don't say next victim when you want to be a wife. I would hope that you can all see that this is not wifey material behavior. And also, if her intentions going in were to be a baseball wife and then it didn't ultimately end in that for her, I'll let you assume. Again, not saying that all women do that, but I think there are women who things don't go the way they want it to, so then they throw the abuse card. I can confidently sit here and say that as a woman. Even if they don't go as far as saying abuse, they say horrific things about the person because it didn't work out the way they wanted it to. It's a common theme.
Saying you wanted him to choke you out and steal his money, take his money, and him actually choking you out, and those two things not being related.
It's a really, really valid question. And like I said, I think you would need to look through each conversation. Those were handpicked. But I can, like I said last night, completely own the fact that those were overly sarcastic, overly inappropriate to some may seem. And it does give off that impression about clout chaser and totally attention seeking behavior. But I just feel that they have, nothing to do with what actually took place. But it does cause a lot of questions as to why I was, seeking Trevor out. But at the end of the day, there was nothing about a setup with violence and all of this stuff and getting financial gain. It was strictly, a 25 or however old I was at the time, girl trying to get attention from those things and phrasing it in a sarcastic way before we met.
Okay, so I've got a couple other questions on that. So you said in court that he sexually assaulted you on 2 different encounters, and you say the first time that you say he choked you unconscious. Clearly the insinuation is you didn't like it, because now you're calling it an assault, but why did you make the drive back to LA to meet back up with him a second time if this man had just assaulted you by your own account?
I think that's a really good question. How I phrased it and how I in the past is that I was so embarrassed by the first encounter that I felt something, deep in me to go and take the power back and to be better and to be what he wanted in a sense. And so I don't know. There's been a lot of, through all the processes, witness experts on the psychology of what happens when you are assaulted, XYZ. But there was something in me that felt like I needed to make it better in a sense.
Okay.
Sorry, my laptop sounds like it's going to explode. She went back a second time after apparently she was abused the first time? The math is not mathing, as I say. I just find that so hard to believe. It's one thing if you're in a marriage and you're trying to make it work with an abuser. I know a lot of women stay for that reason because they're trying to make it work. They have kids. They don't know how to leave. They're scared. But no.
But you texted Trevor before you met him, telling him you liked rough sex. Then you texted him after your first sexual encounter with him, which you now call an assault. And according to court records, you told him after that sexual encounter that you had, quote, never been more turned on in your life. That's not really something that someone says when they were just assaulted.
No.
I think it's a super valid question. Everything you're asking me is a super valid question.
I agree. That's why I'm asking them.
Totally. And I think that I'm not, that's what expert witnesses are for in court in terms of the psychology behind that in responses to abuse and things like that. But like I said, I was just trying to make myself feel better about myself after what had happened the first time. After the first time I left without any markings on my body, my face was fine. I could go to work. And I thought that the second time, would be like the first time minus the things I told him I was not comfortable with.
Yeah, so you mentioned the markings on your body. I want to play a portion of his video in which he plays I would say, interesting video of you in his bed. Watch. Survivors who would say you don't look traumatized there and you don't look beaten, and this is allegedly after you say that he brutally attacked you and you had bruises all over your body, you had bruises all over your face. I don't see any bruises there, and I certainly don't see a woman who's just been traumatized by something horrible.
Again, super valid. I think that I woke up that morning, and the best way to explain that video is I hadn't seen my entire body yet. I had no idea what had happened, considering, I was unconscious for most of it. I had no idea what had happened to my full body.
But if it was that severe, wouldn't you already feel pain? Wouldn't you already have bruises on your face? I mean, you say that he punched you in the face, but where are the bruises?
Yeah, so that's something that has not, been publicly released or he won't talk about. But over and over again in this process, we have handed him pictures that were taken between 20 and 30 minutes right after that video was taken.
No, and I will tell you why. If she was abused during the night before, during their escapade or whatever, when she woke up in the morning, the bruises would have been there. It doesn't make any sense that they were all of a sudden there 20 minutes later. But they weren't there when she woke up. He was asleep with an eye mask on.
of the bruising starting to develop, of the scratching, and it has been time and time
Would
again
already be
verified
there.
through metadata. It was a matter of being in the correct lighting, the spacing to take the right thing. And another difference is, iPhone camera versus a Snapchat recording and things like that. So there is solid bulletproof evidence.
No, it would still show up on Snapchat. I will tell you a personal example. Once at work, I dropped a box on my eyeball. I dropped it, it fell, it hit my eye, opened Snapchat to send it to my friend. The bruise was there on a Snapchat filter. When I've gotten my lips done in the past, normally your lips bruise either right away or later on that day. You take a Snapchat, you send it to your friend, just got my lips done, they're bruised. The bruise is there in the Snapchat. Snapchat doesn't erase bruises from your face. That was a lie.
Of those bruising marks, scratches, things that were provided to their team from day one.
So it was a very brutal attack in which you were very bruised, but we couldn't see the bruises because of the lighting. I want to move on here. So you agreed to the settlement, but now you're saying it's a bummer it's not going to court. I don't understand how those two things jive.
I think that I really had to take into consideration my mental health. This litigation's never ending. And I think the bigger question, and Alex said it last night, if he really wanted, to clear his name or, press charges for fraud, which he did not do with me, he did with the other woman, I think the bigger question is, why did Trevor settle? And why doesn't he want to take this all the way? And it's because of the chance of cross-examination and all the evidence for my case.
Or maybe the fact that he's tired of defending his image and paying all this money for legal fees when he did nothing. And maybe he's protecting his mental health. So I wanted to react to that video as well, just so that we could have both sides of the equation being shown here, and ultimately be able to use both to come to some sort of opinion conclusion, and do it in a fair way where we've seen both sides, and not looking good for Lindsay. This is why we can't believe all women, because some women lie. The same way we can't believe all men, because some men lie. There are bad apples on both sides, and saying that we should believe everything that a woman says just because she's a woman is idiotic. And then there are people who say, well, why would she lie? People lie. People who have nothing to lose lie. People lie. They do it every day. It's sad, but it's the truth. And I find this to be incredibly disgusting. And to all the women and men who are watching this, I have a few key takeaways for you. Don't be an abuser. Don't be a liar. And be very careful of the people that you let into your life, who you pursue romantically. Make good choices. One day, we will stop falsely accusing people for money and clout. That day has not come yet, but one day. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. If you liked it or found it helpful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to be in the loop for when I release new content. If you haven't already, be sure to follow me over on Instagram at Courtney Christine Ryan. I love connecting with all of you guys over on there as well. Let me know what you think about all this down below. Again, wrapping this video up, there are absolutely victims and people who are abused, and their abusers deserve to go to jail, and it's disgusting. And it's incredibly sad that abusers get away with abuse. So in no way am I trying to condone that. I feel very strongly about that. But on the other side, there are false accusers and there are people who lie, and that's disgusting too. And there should be consequences. Maybe if there were consequences, people would stop lying. So anyway, I'm done before I go on another little rant. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I would love to get a conversation going down below, a productive conversation. We are not calling all women evil down in the comment section, because not all women lie about being abused, okay? I will not tolerate that here. There are women who are actually abused. Please keep it productive down in the comments if you want to share your experience. I would just love to hear from you guys down below. So as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.